Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our special coverage during which we go through the latest developments in the region. Upon the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati have conducted separate phone calls with several counterparts in the region. Especially with the special envoy of the Middle East, Witkoff, and a number of foreign ministers in the region. Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone our dear guest, His Excellency Ambassador Mohamad Hegazy. Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon to you, Amal.
Well, Your Excellency, Ambassador Hegazy, under the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati have conducted several phone calls today with the Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and a number of foreign ministers, including on top of which the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Arabti and a number of foreign ministers in the Arab region. How did you follow this intensified calls?
Indeed, this is very important moment in the history of the Gulf and the Middle East, and the Iranian-American war has went to an extent that the whole region is engulfed in these ramifications and the destruction that is occurring in almost all capitals around Iran and the United States have chosen a very strategic and complicated area where the hefty price paid is paid by our sisterly brothers and brothers in the Gulf region. So the communication and call of Minister Badr Abdel Ati is timely and very important, urgent also, and I think calling Steve Witkoff and Abbas Arabti, the Foreign Minister of Iran, is so important, as well as the Foreign Minister of certain capitals, particularly in the Gulf region, to wrap up the situation before maybe the end of the threatening timeline given by President Trump for tomorrow. And I think in this very crucial moment, communication of that nature is very important, particularly if it is exerted by the Foreign Minister of Egypt, a country that is enjoying the trust of the two parties to the conflict and others. So I think this is the time for us all to intervene, to bring in some sense to this mad moment in which I think President Trump has escalated the threat to destroy the Iranian strategic civilian installation and the threat by the Iranians to vengeance this and retaliate by destroying also similar targets in Israel and the region. It means that the Gulf countries as well as Egypt and the responsible capitals understand that there is definitely a need to stop this madness from continuing, because we all are losing, the international community are losing. The Iranian threat to the Gulf countries has caused a lot of damage, as well as the Israeli continuous attack on Iran and also on southern Lebanon. We shouldn't forget that this confrontation has opened the gate for many wars, not one war. When you initiate a war, you don't know how it will look like. After a while, you stop, but you don't know what is the end. And it seems to me that wisdom has to prevail, and this is exactly the heart of the essence of the call made by Foreign Minister Abdel Ati to all parties related to this conference.
Yes. Yes, Your Excellency Ambassador Hegazy, also Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati during his calls and phone calls today with the foreign minister's counterparts, he stressed the necessity of prioritizing the wisdom to reduce the tension, and also he stressed to avoid further escalation and destruction, and also noted on the importance of giving more weight to the dialogue and diplomacy and negotiations. The point of dialogue, talks, negotiations, on top of which the diplomacy.
Thank you, Amal, for this very important comment and question. At the same time, diplomacy can definitely add value to this very volatile situation and bring the parties to their senses and to common ground. We have tried in Oman twice and in Geneva, and we were very close, subject to given diplomacy the time it required to end up such a conflict. I think bridging the gap between the two parties are foreseen and possible. President Trump himself, although of his many comments and talks about the war, have given a declaration a while ago saying that there is ongoing negotiation, and he believes they can both reach an agreement in the time limit of tomorrow as scheduled, the 6th of April.
Yes, Your Excellency Ambassador Hegazy, now the war in its fifth week, actually it's since the 28th of February. Now we're just calling for a de-escalation of the situation, as war have already erupted 5 weeks ago. Now the ceiling is very high. So do you think that the idea of negotiations or talks is only aiming at least for a truce or 48 hours of truce, of a ceasefire? What do you think? Of course, everyone is aiming for a settled agreement, of course, but what do we expect now?
I think what you are suggesting, Amal, is quite important and wise, like reaching a final settlement. Iran has been attacked 3 times while negotiating. So reaching a temporary ceasefire means that we should expect a new round of fighting. What is important is to guarantee, as the Iranians requested, we have to guarantee their position. We have to guarantee that the United States and Israel will not come back to attack them. And this is very safe and logic. We have to understand that the ongoing wars happens because we don't reach an agreement, and because one party, Israel and the U.S., believe that using force will compel Iran to accept their unconditional surrender or conditions. I believe that an overall settlement through which the United States will lift sanctions and guarantee the Iranians that they will not attack them again, like an agreement to guarantee not to attack Iran. At the same time, Iran has to open the Strait of Hormuz and abide by international law of free navigation on international straits like Hormuz. At the same time, Iran has to control its subsidiary arms like Hezbollah and Houthi, as well as the Iraqi mobilizing force, Shiite mobilizing force. If Iran can guarantee to the world and to the U.S. and to the Gulf nations and to the Arab countries that it is a neighbor to be reckoned with, we can maybe suggest a declaration of principles to all parties to join, including Iran, and then to think about, as we discussed maybe before, a peace and security structure similar to the one that led to United Europe, which we are seeing today, like Helsinki 1975. They agreed on a list of principles of non-aggression, of respecting sovereignty, and then they moved to a structure like in the one in Brussels, where all aspects of European cooperation, including security, is safeguarded by a common view. Same in the Middle East, the only region in the world that doesn't have a political security and cooperation structure. So time has come that we guarantee security to all, not only as always done by the United States to the benefit and to the security of the State of Israel. Then we're talking about a Middle East that is living in harmony, where each other are respecting the sovereignty and life without further complication and wars. I guess, Amal, to finalize, this is a moment of truth. Either we go wise and we safeguard the sovereignty of nations and respect also Iran, and Iran to respect the neighboring Gulf countries, and move all together to the well-being of our Middle East.
Yes, Your Excellency Ambassador Hegazy, for his part, U.S. President Donald Trump have promised strikes on Iran's power plants and bridges on Tuesday, because the deadline ends tomorrow, Monday, restarting his threat to the attacks of the civilians and the infrastructure if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened, or if Iran did not reach to a settled agreement. How did you follow this statement? Only one hour ago, U.S. President Donald Trump made this statement.
Well, President Trump is saying, but as he gave tomorrow as the final date for settlement, otherwise he will attack all Iranian strategic civilian power plants, electricity, fuel, and everything is related to civilian life. And this is, I think, in itself, by announcing it, is a war crime. However, we have to live with the fact that we need to also convince the Iranians to open the Strait of Hormuz, and I believe that we should all sign up to an agreed upon document. We cannot just announce the opening of the Strait of Hormuz and the United States cease hostility and stop attacking Iran. This is not enough, because there is one party, which is Israel, who is urging all the time to fuel the war against Iran. We have to sign up to an agreement which will guarantee to Iran that it will live in its confined border, and Iran has also obligation to open the strait and to stop supporting its arms in the region, which has rendered the Middle East in disarray. I think we all have responsibility, and Egypt is exerting all its efforts to bring in all the parties to understand this, those responsibilities.
Yes, actually, now the situation is affecting, and the war, Israeli-U.S. war on Iran is affecting, of course, as we know, affecting the economy in the whole world, affecting power, affecting oil, affecting everything. In addition, let me tell you, Your Excellency, Ambassador Hegazy, that 8 groups in the whole world are warning that the war in the Middle East have upended their ability to get food and medicine to millions of people in the world who are in need of food, especially the food is stranded in United Arab Emirates, which is going to Sudan. the food and aid going to Sudan, even the food going to children with malnutrition in Somalia. It's stranded in India because of the Strait of Hormuz and because of the flights and the situation in the Middle East. How do you read this situation?
Yeah, I agree with you, Amal. It is not about energy security only, it's also food security. All fertilizers is stopped, even the ammonia used in the fertilization product, as well as all the food entering and coming out of the Gulf area goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So this is a man-made catastrophe based on greed and miscalculation and warmongers who love to attack each other, returning us back to Stone Age. I think those who have decided this war are the people who live in the Stone Age. It's not really through the use of force that you attain your goals. They have done that in Venezuela, and they thought that it might work also in Iran. But as you see, Iran has used its geostrategic positioning and have dragged the Gulf into the middle of the war, and they have attacked all the American bases, and the Americans are seeking vengeance by attacking civilian strategic electricity and power plants. This is insane, and it shouldn't be done by a country that is leading the international community, unfortunately, to bleed more, to suffer more, and to pay a hasty price for miscalculation. I think the world community have expressed this position. The NATO itself has refused to join in this madness, as well as Europe has distanced itself from being part of this crime, except the United States and Israel. Time has come also to assert our full support to our brothers and sisters in the Gulf countries who are suffering from a war that they have nothing to do with, and they are paying a price for adventures that is leading our Middle East to this disarray. Time has come that we in the region take our security in the near future in our hands. Moment that this war stops, the Gulf countries and the Arab nations, as I explained in my previous answer, take the matter in their hands and assure that their security is their own concern. No one will protect your security because everyone has his own plan. As we saw, the strategic decision of the United States to war with Iran didn't bring stability to the region, and we were not consulted, neither in the Middle East or the Gulf region. So we've been paying a price for some adventures to service either for the American president or the Prime Minister of Israel, who is a cause of this disruption in the whole region since he came to power.
Actually, Your Excellency, Ambassador Hegazy, concerning South Lebanon, the Lebanese President Joseph Aoun today have said that he is willing to negotiate for a ceasefire in South Lebanon, and that he does not want South Lebanon to be like Gaza, and that at the end of any fighting or conflicts, people sit and talk and negotiate and make agreements. How did you follow his wise statements?
Yeah, of course, as you described it, Amal, it is a wise statement. President Aoun is carrying a great responsibility. Lebanon is paying a hasty price without being part, as the whole Gulf region also, not only in southern Lebanon. We all paying the price that we didn't call off. It is those who decided to fight Iran, and Iran also who decided to disrupt the regional stability by attacking the Gulf, and Israel to attack southern Lebanon. I think the Israelis also feel that they didn't really war as well as the Americans. So they wanted to show their public opinion that they have gained something, like annexing a few kilometers in the southern Lebanese border crossing. And I think this is a mistake because they are paying already a heavy humanitarian casualty. Many Israeli soldiers are killed. Of course, they have destructed Lebanon, but this is their habit. They can keep this without being blamed by anybody. But today we have to look at the Israeli eyes and say, stop using force because it didn't bring you to peace and stability since 1948 and before. It is through peace like the one you done with Egypt and Jordan that brought two important Arab nations. So time has come that reality should be set. The Americans should understand that using the Middle East for their venture are no longer acceptable, and the Israelis should listen to the Lebanese offer to negotiate a permanent peace deal, and Iran should understand that they should stop their arms in the region to destabilize. Who decided on taking Lebanon to this unjustifiable war? It is Hezbollah who is not listening to the call of the Prime Minister and the President himself in Lebanon and fought this war to support Iran. And this is not our battlefield. Iran can defend itself. If you want to attack Iran, attack it from Iran. Don't use Lebanon as a launch pad for your attack. So time has come that an overall adjustment to the security situation in the Middle East that safeguard the security of Iran, of the Israelis and Lebanese, as well as the rest of the Gulf countries through a convention that will bring in a solution to the Palestinian cause, to the situation of the Iranian arms in the region, to the Israeli ongoing attacks everywhere and misuse of force and killings in the West Bank and Gaza, and end up the story of the Middle East by a peace deal that will govern.
Yes, Your Excellency Ambassador. Yes, Your Excellency Ambassador Hegazy, Egypt have strongly condemned in a foreign ministry statement. Egypt have condemned the attacks on targeting the United Arab Emirates mission headquarters and residence of the head of the mission in Damascus. How did you follow the statement released by the foreign ministry and attacking the headquarters mission of the United Arab Emirates in Damascus?
This is indeed a breach of international law. Attacking diplomatic mission is condemned by law and condemned also by Egypt because the United Arab Emirates is a brotherly Arab Gulf country, and we shouldn't accept any attack on any Arab sovereign nation, particularly the diplomatic missions always have its own protection by the local authority, by the international law, and by the wish to have a stabilized Middle East, a stable Middle East, not through increasing violence and breaching of international norms. The Syrian authority should take action, not only to protect the embassies, but also to punish those who led this heinous attack.
Yes. Also, Your Excellency, Iran's Revolutionary Guards have claimed responsibility on Sunday for the attacks on petrochemical plants in the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and in Bahrain. It claimed responsibility in a statement released by the Revolutionary Guards. What's your comment?
Egypt condemned those attacks. Those are civilian infrastructure in Arab countries, and Iran has targeted through its campaign 65% of its attacks were on civilian installations, and I think this has been communicated today and in many other times before to the Iranian authorities, and I think those attacks is causing damage to a sovereign Arab state, and it has nothing to do with the American campaign. It is one of Emirates' important assets that should be respected, not attacked.
Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Hegazy, 2 weeks ago, Iran President Masoud Pezeshkian, in statements for the media, he said he apologizes for the Arab countries because Iran does not mean to target the country itself, the Arab country itself. It's targeting the U.S. military bases in these countries. But what we can see now, what's your comment on this? What's happening now, as we've just mentioned the attack on the petrochemical plants? As you've mentioned, it's a civilian target because it's serving civilians.
Thank you very much, Amal, to give me this opportunity to assure that 65 to 80% of what Iran has targeted in the Gulf were civilian targets. Second, those are assets for the Gulf states built over years by their own sweat and money, and this will not give the United States any reason to give sympathy to the region. The United States is only caring about their security and the security of their bases and those of Israel. So whatever Iran is doing now is harming the wrong party. They could have done that to Israel or to American bases, but unfortunately, as I said, 65% to 80% of their attacks were against civilian targets in the Gulf region, which we condemn, and we declared it to all authorities in Iran, and we will keep telling the United States, enough is enough, stop attacking and reach out to Iran and accept the mediation and find out a solution, because you are not damaging your image or even Israel, you are damaging the whole community, and as you stated, Amal, it covers a lot of damage on the value chain, being it energy, food, medicine, agriculture, and many other aspects of life.
I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information. Thank you very much for being with us over the phone, Your Excellency Ambassador Mohamad Hegazy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for your information.